Seeing the time is now 6 o'clock, this time we'll call this meeting to order. This being our regular December meeting of the Dawson County Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll begin with the invocation from Tim Bennett, if you would, please, Tim.
Let's bow our heads. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. Thank you for your love, mercy, and grace. Lord, as we approach the Christmas holiday season, Lord, we just want to be mindful of, Lord, that you're the reason that we celebrate Christmas, and so thankful. I just pray that during this meeting tonight, let everything that we do, everything that's said and done, Lord, be for the betterment of the county in every way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ask you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. This time we will have a roll call. Ms. Harmony, when you're ready. The record will show that we are all present this evening, have a full board, full quorum. There will be a planning commission meeting on January the 19th, 2021, 6 o'clock, same location. Gentlemen, I assume you've had opportunity to review your minutes. Is there any amendments that need to be made? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Moving a second to approve the minutes from November. All in favor? And the motion is carried. The agenda that's presented by staff tonight, is there any amendments that need to be made to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented by staff?
No. Motion to accept.
Second.
Moving a second to approve the agenda. All in favor? And the motion is carried 5-0. If you're here tonight to speak either in favor or in opposition of any application, and you have donated more than $250 to any local official campaign, then there's a form which you will need to fill out prior to speaking tonight, and Harmony has that form up here at the desk. Under new business, we'll begin with application for variance. VR 20-24, Lloyd Freeman, OBO Lighthouse Baptist Church, is requesting to vary from the Dawson County Land Use Resolution to Article 4, Section 400A, front setback reduction from required 40 foot to 20 foot for the construction of a structure, tax map parcel 112-020-001, Harmony Church Road. Is there someone here to present for Lighthouse Baptist Church? If you would, please come forward. On the podium, you'll find a piece of paper and a pen. Please write your name and address on that piece of paper. Please state your name.
My name is Lloyd Freeman. I am a member of Design Construction LLC, general contractor.
And please give us a brief description, a reason for your request for a variance.
I'm here requesting a variance for Lighthouse Christian Academy, which is the ministry of Lighthouse Baptist Church. They're looking to build a building on a piece of property. The way that the property sits, we live in Dawson County, as you know, everything kind of goes one way or the other. There's a current soccer field, which is a flag area on the property. And where the building will sit, it needs to be just a little bit to the right. And that would bump up against Grant Road, which is a dirt road that runs through the county. We would still be within, I don't know if there was a picture, I don't know if we presented it or not, but there's a fence that runs there. This property would still stay inside of the fence. There wouldn't be, we wouldn't be coming out into the road or anything like that. But just looking to get a little extra room, the way the property drops off is the existing structures that are below that. It just makes a lot of sense that we could scoot that over just a little bit to get this building placed.
Throughout the application, I did not see a picture of your proposed building. Could
There
you?
was a site plan that we had presented to the county in our document, and I apologize, I did not bring it with me.
Okay. Could you describe it?
Can I describe it? We have the church that sits on here, and we're actually wanting to set the schools for handicap access and attaching to the parking lot. So when people come in and drop their kids off at school, they just turn right around. And the Grant Road comes in from my direction, it comes in and kind of circles around. And this soccer field sits here, probably about 50 feet off. And so we just wanted to see a little closer. I apologize.
Oh, okay. But and the front corner of that soccer field kind of turns. If it did, it'd get into quite expensive as building walls and things like that to support the front edge of that building.
Okay. Could you describe the building?
The building is going to be 90 by 125 feet long. It's going to be half Christian school and half gym. The front will be 2 stories, a mezzanine with a total square footage of about 16,000 square feet.
And the material?
Material is going to be a metal steel building, which is currently what the church is built out of. So it will match the existing structure that's adjacent to it. We'll build a concrete mezzanine. We'll have a school on bottom and top. And like I said, there'll be a gym on the back part of that building.
Any further questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time, we'll close it to the board for discussion. Gentlemen, any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Moving a second to approve. All in favor? Still missing one. Motion is carried 3-0 with one abstention.
I'm actually, yes. I don't know how-
Apparently you didn't show up, but motion is carried. You have your variance. Application for rezone and presentation of ZA 20-21, George Butler as an agent for owners is requesting to rezone tax map parcel 097-099 from RA residential agriculture to RS2 residential suburban 2 for the purpose of developing 194 residential lot subdivision, Dawson Forest Road East. Is someone here to present for Mr. Butler? Mr. Butler, if you would, please come forward. On the podium, you'll find a piece of paper. Ask if you would write your name and address there on the piece of paper.
Yes, thank you.
For the record, please state your name.
Yes, Mr. Chairman Hamby, my name is George Butler. I'm an attorney with offices in Dahlonega. And may I proceed?
Please.
Chairman Hamby, members of the commission, I am pleased tonight to represent the longtime owners of this unique tract of land, 111 acres, including 15 acres south of Blacks Mill Creek, with a couple of thousand feet of frontage on the creek. The families that have owned this, some of whom are represented tonight with members of the Turner family, are longtime members of this community. The Hendricks, Inez Hendricks was a superintendent of public schools years ago. Her son, Harold Hendricks, left this property to his heirs, the Robinson family, Herbert Robinson, and so forth. So education has been in all the families. They've hung on to this property for many decades. Back in '97, they sold the 20 acres in the northeast corner to the school board for Blacks Mill Elementary School. They've hung on to the balance. They did consider selling the property in roughly '94 to Sid Ransom for a subdivision. And it's our understanding that that 75 acres was zoned for 285 cottage homes for a density of 3.75 units per acre, contingent on sewer. And the sewer never materialized, and it's my understanding that it was put back in RA for, of course, for tax purposes. This go round, they were determined, I think, to leave a legacy, and I'm a zoning lawyer, they conferred with me about what is reasonable to expect in the way of density. I pointed out that for whatever reason, the existence of the school would actually be one reason, and that is it is zoned, it's not zoned, it's shown on the comprehensive plan, and I've given you an excerpt, it's Exhibit C to the handout tonight. It's shown on the comprehensive plan as planned residential community, which is a fairly unique classification. And it says that that's a classification that is to encourage higher residential densities near a walkable amenity. So I said, you know, you've got the school, that's a walkable amenity. This is appropriately shown. And we talked to some developers and they said, you know, one of the developments we're proudest of was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we built a development just like this around an elementary school. We gave the land for the elementary school, and those houses sold for more and have appreciated more in value than any subdivision we ever did. So we think that this will be a great subdivision. We talked to Damon Gibbs. I'm assisted in this by Jason Power, who is, I'm sure, known to all of you. We met with Superintendent Gibbs. I was immensely impressed with him. He looked at this, he said, this would be great because we said, we're not only going to do a subdivision that has interconnectivity between the subdivision and the school so the kids can, in essence, walk in the back door. But I've also told the owners that not only are you planned residential community that encourages higher residential densities, but you also are eligible for a conservation subdivision because you have these wonderful resources. You got this fabulous Blacksmill Creek frontage. You have this rock promontory, which is in the northwest quadrant at the corner of Blacksmill Road and Dawson Forest. We had Matt Payne of your Parks and Rec go look at both. He said, I would love to have you preserve those two under a conservation subdivision. So we put those two together and we said, can we find some developers who are willing to tackle this? Because they've got problems with rocks and wetlands. And we think we've located some developers who are willing to have us do a conservation subdivision, which I think will be a model for you going forward. And if you will indulge me, I'm going to turn the map that I've given you this way. And that's because when we all look at the subdivision, I had a pointer, I don't know what I did with it. When we look at the subdivision, we're facing it from Dawson Forest Road. So we're looking, in this case, we're looking south. So under your conservation subdivision, which is found in your subdivision regulations, interestingly enough, it says, if you get an R2 zoning, you can have a conservation subdivision, which gives you potentially twice the normal density. So R2 would be 2 units an acre. So in theory, we might get as much as 224 units. But you've got to comply with all the other subdivision requirements, which is you have to dedicate a certain percentage to what they call primary conservation and secondary conservation. When we did that, the developers could, at a maximum, can only yield 194 lots rather than the 224. And they squawked and we said, but this is what we want to do. So we've gotten them to agree to go with the 194 lots, assuming they can get this yield, because there is rock and there are wetlands. But then look what we've got. We've got this primary conservation area, which I've highlighted in orange, which is all along both sides of Blacksmill Creek. That's 33.4 acres. Then we've got the secondary conservation area over here, this rock promontory. That's 17.3 acres. So the primary and secondary conservation areas, which will be put in perpetual conservation. And how will that be done? We are proposing, and we've discussed it with Matt Payne and others, we've discussed that we would like to see it either put in a perpetual trust with the county as a trustee, or the developers are willing to dedicate the land to the county. Now, there's additional acreage that is crosshatched in green, but it has a white background, and that's more open space, but that's for our detention ponds and things, and that's another 15.3 acres, so that the total acreage that is going to be undeveloped will be 59% of the property. So they're going to cluster the homes within 40% of the property. And that's precisely what planned residential community contemplates, but it's exactly what conservation subdivision contemplates. It says, and this is the theory, it's called rural by design. And you want to put green all the way around the development so that it is not particularly visible. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind. And in compensation, you let the developer cluster his homes and have a little higher per acre density. So the density then that we're looking at is basically 1.7 units an acre. And as I said, it's a twofer. We think we would be entitled to some higher density because of conservation subdivision and because of the planned residential community, the fact that we're next to the school. And so what are we going to do? We talked to Superintendent Gibbs and said, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to create a pathway, and here's the little red line, and we'll have a pedestrian crossway here that will be marked, where your school children can come here and enjoy this on field trips, nature walks, and so forth. Now, for the protection of our neighbors, we would restrict this primary area to the residents here and to the residents in the subdivision and to school children on supervised field trips. This, however, would be open to the public. And Matt Payne says he has some ideas for what to do with that. Now, to protect our neighbors further, and let me point out already, a very interesting thing, 194 lots, only 9 of them back up to other homes, existing homes, because look, they're buffered by this primary area, by the secondary area, by the school, and by Dawson Forest Road. Only 9 houses that we're proposing back up to other houses. In any case, for them, for everybody, we're giving a 50-foot buffer all the way around. And that buffer, and that's before our lot. So our lot, even for those 9 homeowners, there's a 50-foot buffer that has to be opaque. If it's not opaque because of existing vegetation, we need to put infill or do fencing. So there's that protection. Now, what I have done is to contact the neighbors. There are about 50 neighbors. So before we ever put a zoning sign up, it caused our neighbors a sleepless night. You know, what do these people have in mind? We wrote them all letters. We told them exactly what we had in mind. We said we were negotiable. We'll put in extra rezoning conditions that are reasonable if you'll tell us what you're concerned about. We didn't know. I think one concern was that we might put a bridge across here and let the children and the neighbors run wild behind these houses, like Darlene Haddon's house, and just had expressed a reasonable concern. So right now we're suggesting that this property will only be for stream buffer and view shed. In other words, we're not going to build a bridge right now across the Blacks Mill Creek. So we think we have satisfied Ms. Haddock's understandable concerns. And so there are going to be 2 different sets of restrictions. So as I just told you, these will be limited to certain people, the school children and the surrounding owners on this side using passive recreation, walking trails, passive amenities, no physical equipment, no motorized equipment, no alcohol, and so forth. So we do think that the people understand that this is going to be well taken care of in terms of the restrictions. And then Matt Payne will meet with the county board and decide exactly what the hours of operation would be for this property. Now, We've also met with Edward Water and Sewer. Remember, that's what prevented ransom from developing this property in '94. And sure enough, it's going to be costly. What we've agreed to do with Brooke Anderson is we've agreed to provide a sewer connection from Blacks Mill for the school through our property to a trunk line down here, and we will build a lift station that will be sized for this development and for Blacks Mill School. So when Blacks Mill School is ready to go online and abandon their own pump station, they'll be able to do this. And we'll do that at the developer's cost. And so I think that now, more recently, initially the developers were not inclined to go along with a traffic study and wanted to do another traffic study. And we had suggested a condition that, you know, we would wait till 50% build out. I found that condition in the earlier zoning, and then we would look at traffic. So we negotiated with them over the weekend and got them to agree to go with the traffic study by Mark Acampora that you have a copy of. Mark is a top-notch traffic engineer, no nonsense. And so they have agreed then that they will build the traffic improvements that he is suggesting and or indicating should be required. And at a minimum, what they will do is they'll build a right turn lane here. This is the western entrance. Remember, this is south, western entrance closest to Highway 9. This is the outlet mall. They'll build a right turn lane into this entrance, and they'll build a left turn lane here and a left turn here. We want it. Unless the county requires it, though, there wouldn't be two right-hand lanes. It'd only be one, but there would be two left-hand turn lanes. And we think that that will preserve the condition of traffic on Dawson Forest. We've also thrown in a bunch of additional conditions to relieve some of the concerns of the neighbors concerning hours of construction, no rental units unless the homeowners association approves when it has resident members, not when it's controlled by the developer. 5-foot sidewalks, minimum house size for ranch would be 1,600 feet, 1,800 for 2 bedrooms. We got them to agree to 2 garages, 2-car garage rather than 1-car garage. So we think that on balance, the conditions have been improved over the last few days as a result of our negotiation. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions from the commission or from anybody in the audience. Again, I've written the neighbors now 3 letters. Last week, as we told them we would do, we planned a Zoom meeting, which seemed to be the consensus, for 7 o'clock in the evening, last Tuesday evening. And I'm very proud to say that nobody showed up in opposition. Nobody had a complaint about what we were proposing. And tonight, for the first time, I've had an opportunity to meet Mr. Krattinger, who apologized for being unable to attend that meeting and or to communicate. We've told him that he owns a sizable piece of land. We'll be happy to meet with him, Jason and I, between now and the the county commission meeting and try to work out any other issues that he may articulate tonight. But again, it wasn't for dint of not trying, but I think he's had some issues he had to deal with that kept him from taking advantage of the opportunity, but we'll give it to him between now and the county commission meeting. Thank you.
Hold up. Excuse me, Mr. Butler, if you would remain at the podium, please. Could you speak to the external facade of the houses themselves? What will the houses look like?
Yeah, well, we think that given the expense of developing this property, which is sewer, which is rock, which is wetland mitigation, having to buy mitigation credits, and with the amenity of the school, which, as I told you, one of these developers said was the basis for his most successful lifetime development, which was a subdivision in Charlotte, that they think these will be very nice homes. Now, they have committed to a minimum, as I mentioned, 1,600 square foot for ranch, 1,800 for two-story homes. But we're expecting a fairly significant price point because of the expense of developing this property. So for instance, the sewer lines that we lay, a lot of those are going to have to be blasted. So they're expecting something that's going to be a nice product. I don't have elevations, but I can certainly have them for the county commission. But I hope you maybe can appreciate that a lot of time and effort has gone into this, and the expense of developing this property in the way that we're proposing it is going to force the house prices to be, these aren't going to be inexpensive homes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. Any questions to the applicant?
But you don't have a price point. You're making an assumption. You don't have a price point.
No, I'm not making, I don't have a price point, but we know that what the costs are. In other words, we have seen that, every time the developer hits rock or comes to us and like the issue with the Etowah Water and Sewer, we're going to have substantial expense. We're going to give, I didn't mention this, we're going to give an easement along Black's Mill for a future trunk line, if necessary, 18-inch trunk line. We're going to go on and contribute to Etowah Water and Sewer the cost of the 18-inch trunk line. Just like if they decide not to have us build the smaller pump station size for us and for the elementary school, we will contribute that money and they can build the lift station farther down. But there's some substantial cost involved. So these will be nice homes. And I'm sorry that you caught me a little flat-footed because Mr. Power and I have been privy to all these conversations. So we know that with 194 homes and the costs that we're talking about, that the prices can't help but be, quality type homes. And again, the developers keep telling us the proximity to the school is going to be such a selling point. And Superintendent Gibbs has said, son, we've got plenty of capacity in Black's Mill. So he said, I'd love to see, young professional families. We're going to have the medical complex at the end of 400 at Northeast Georgia. I'm hoping that we're going to have doctors and nurses and other professionals who are going to be, in our community and buying these homes. And certainly in Dahlonega with this COVID thing, house prices have accelerated greatly, and we've just they've just zoned some land in downtown Dahlonega for homes, thinking that again we're going to be able to attract people from Atlanta, and this is the phenomenon that they're seeing in Florida, where people buy a second home in the mountains in a beautiful area like this and get to flee the city on the weekends. And I think we're going to increasingly see that. So I think these are going to be nice homes. If you've got specific data that I could get from the developers, we'll be happy to do that.
Secondly, I'm sure the traffic engineer for Dawson County will probably bring this up, but your driveway closest to Black's Mill is probably going to be too close for operations of the school. So I would ask that whatever develops here, that they take a look at the school operations as the school continues to increase and you end up with more people going to the school. The traffic in and around those driveways at the school can't be hindered. So I've seen plenty of developments larger than this operate with one driveway. I don't see the need for two driveways.
Okay.
So I would ask that whatever develops here, whether it's something this dense or in the future, get as far away from Black's Mill access points as possible. Secondly, I'll just go ahead and caution you. I've already dealt with, because I was traffic operations manager for the city of Alpharetta. Okay. There's a subdivision in Windward that they did the wonderful thing of providing access from the subdivision into the school. Okay. We actually had to put a crossing guard in that subdivision because of drop off that occurs. Because people didn't want to have to deal with the line at the school. So they go into the subdivision and drop their kids off in the cul-de-sac. Okay. And literally, we have not been able to figure out a way to stop it because it's an easement that was given to the subdivision and to the school. And it went right behind, in between two houses, and there's no way to stop
Was it
that.
a walking access
A
or a
walking
drive?
access trail. Okay, so what ends up happening is the wonderful parents who don't want to wait in the car rider line ends up going to the subdivision, driving their kids off. I'm just going to bring this up as a cautionary.
No, I think
issue.
that's, I think that's.
It's a
equitable.
wonderful thing. The thought process is, hey, we're going to provide this access for the neighbors to allow their kids to walk to school. And it ended up being just the opposite. So we're just going to throw that out there. Okay, just word
We'll
of
definitely get
experience that
now,
we've dealt
but
with at Alpharetta.
There has to be a way to skin that cat, but unless.
We haven't been able to figure it
Unless you
out.
know about it, that's right. And, okay.
I just want to throw that to you. Okay.
Any other questions to the applicant? Thank you, Ms. Butler. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? If you would, please come forward. Write your name and address on the piece of paper that's there on the podium. And for the record, please state your name.
Tyler Carpenter, 128 Blacksmill Trace West. I'm here in opposition. Obviously, he said there would be 9 locations directly affected. Mine's gonna be one of them. And frankly, we just don't want 194 houses in our backyard. I mean, you're talking about traffic impact, as well as they have no study on what population it's gonna bring. They got a lot of theories on who it's gonna bring in, a lot of theories on what they're gonna do and what they're not gonna do. But frankly, it's a conservation land. It's supposed to be conserved, not built on. I request to deny their, I request that you guys deny their rezoning.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else speak in opposition?
I'd like to speak just for,
Please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper there on the podium.
not in opposition or approval, I just want to speak on issues that are going to affect me.
Okay.
And my name is Kurt Kratinger, 243 Blacks Mill Road. Hello, members of the Planning Commission and Chairman Hamby. It's been a while. I just spoke with Mr. Butler just for a second, and I expressed my condolences that I was unable to get with him earlier and go over some of these things because there's a lot here. And I don't want to speak on issues that have to do with traffic or what the houses are going to look like or who's going to move in or any of that, because it's just really not something that I think I want to take your time up. There'll be plenty of that going on anyway. I'm going to speak on issues that have to do with my 21 acres that are next door. I own more property along this proposal than any other single person does. And also, I had a relationship with the owners of this property, and I actually bought some of the property. I can't remember what year it was. It was back in the early 2000s, but I bought Black's Mill, the actual mill, and the waterfall and quarry that were owned by this group of people who I got to know. And actually, one of them, George David, became a mentor for me as I was a planning commissioner and sat where you sit tonight for 5.5 years. And George helped me understand what my job was and how to work within the rules of the county and so forth, since he wrote most of them at the time. So I have a big history with these folks, and I was sold the property because George knew that I would take care of it, and he wanted me to have it because he knew that I would cherish it and try to do the right thing for the property and for the future of the county with the property. So having said that, a few years back, there was a proposal to put a sewer pipe through the same valley that we're talking about now. And I just heard Mr. Butler say that he would give access to an 18-inch sewer line, and I'm downhill from that. So when the proposal originally came in for the sewer line years ago, I fought it as hard as I possibly could, because the engineers for Etowah Water and Sewer, when they talked to me, they said they were going to dynamite my waterfall and destroy the mill to put the sewer line in. So naturally, I'm going to fight that. But the good Lord intervened and crashed the entire economy, and the project that was going to need that sewer pipe fell through, and the whole thing went away until now. So I just hearing that now, I don't know where a lift station would be. Those are things I'd have to talk to Mr. Butler about in order for me to be on his side on it or against that particular part of the project. And that's just one issue of many on this project for me personally. So I want to go through a few things if we have time tonight. I'm assuming we do. And my opinion obviously is going to be that we're a little early to approve this project. Not that I'm against approving it, but that I think we're a little early to approve it without a litany of stipulations. And I would not be happy without hearing stipulations that are going to affect me personally, that are written in stone, so that I don't have to worry later that it's not going to happen. And I do believe that I'll be on a good working relationship with Mr. Butler later. But since I didn't have a chance to talk to him privately or with other people, I want to do this now so that it's a public record. So reading through some of the issues in the letter that I received from Mr. Butler, one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring out is that the primary and secondary conservation areas are going to be designed to protect the interest of us landowners. And I like that, but there's nothing here that says what that protection is going to be. So that's something I would want to work on in the future. And then on the last page, or second to last page, we have here legally binding, that they want to have legally binding zoning conditions, restrictive covenants and easements to nail our developers' feet to the floor, so that we, property owners, can be assured that the project, if approved, will be what is represented to be. So having said that, I agree with that. However, we have to have some stuff in writing that shows exactly where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing as this project goes forward, being that it is a really huge project, and it will set a precedent for the county in that this conservation subdivision would be something that other people would like to emulate if it works for this particular group. So like I said, not speaking out against it, because there's some things in it that I really like the pieces of land that they want to conserve. Well, one of them is right next to me. Naturally, I want to conserve that. But if it's a park with a bunch of people there with public parking on it, you know, I already have huge issues with people coming to my waterfall and wanting to see it, even though it's private property. They just think they can just do whatever they want, you know, because it's beautiful and accessible actually from the road. Well, that causes me a lot of trouble. And it does invite certain types of people. For instance, a sex offender lured a boy down to that waterfall some years ago. And thank God I had a worker there on the property that alerted law enforcement and he was caught. But this event happened and it affected me highly that my property could be a magnet for something like that to happen. I didn't even go down to my waterfall for 2 years after that. Well, now if we have 250 homes and everything that that's bringing, along with the county growing the way it is, you know, it's even more of an issue for me. And secondarily, as far as security is concerned, with the amount of property line that I'm going to have, and actually I have like 6 or 7 houses right on my property line on the 50-foot buffer, and my shop for my, by the way, agricultural land. I am not a residential property. I'm an agricultural property. And that agricultural property has a lot of things that I can do that normal people can't do. I can burn a fire every day without a permit anytime I want because I'm agricultural. I can have pigs. I can have chickens. I can make noise. I can do a lot of different things that normal people can't do because it's ag property. And so that in and of itself might have something to do with maybe moving some of those houses a little further from my property line so that the cops aren't constantly called every time I'm banging with a hammer on a piece of equipment. So let me move on down the line here. That's, oh yeah, okay. So on that issue itself, I have equipment. I've got bobcats, excavators. I've got every kind of a small equipment known to man. You know, young kids and so forth without an impediment can just walk across the property line and walk away with whatever they want, you know. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying I don't want to be the one that's stuck with a security problem from this. I want someone else to be stuck with that problem. Vis-a-vis, in here it mentions a fence or some type of buffer. I would want it in writing that I got a fence and not just a 6-foot fence. I want an 8-foot security fence on my property line. Things like that have to be worked out. I understand that. I missed my opportunity. Mr. Butler, I was out of town and had some other big issues. One of the big issues that happened to me was, and this is of a concern to everybody that is in planning like you are, we have way more runoff now from all these developments everywhere. And the other couple months ago, we had a hurricane come through here. I think it was Zeta, and it dumped a tremendous amount of water on us. Anybody dealt with highways knows what that washout was like. Well, for the first time, and I've been in this county for over 30 years, for the first time ever, Blacksmill Creek not only came out of its banks, but came out of the banks so tremendously that 3 feet high of water filled the entire Blacksmill Valley. It wasn't standing water, it was rushing water. And I probably sustained anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 worth of damage from that flood. First time ever. So that's one of the issues why I wasn't able to really get with Mr. Butler on this, because I'm having to deal with that right now. And I didn't have flood insurance. Who knew that would happen? That happened 2 months ago, whatever it was. But that's going to happen again and again, not only for me in that valley, but for many other people are going to have to deal with that. One of the things that we have, and Mr. Butler mentioned that, is detention and retention ponds in this county. They're called best management practices, and they look good. Big pond fills up to a certain amount and slowly releases the water. However, in a big rain, when those ponds fill up, it's as if they are not even there. And the rest of the water after a certain amount of rain comes down these valleys. So that's not an issue that I want to take up tonight. I just want to mention that every time another subdivision is built, more and more water are going to come through our valleys and do more and more damage. So if you don't mind, I just want to look through and see if there's anything else that I wanted to say before I leave the podium. Oh yeah, sorry. So a parking area was proposed off of Blacks Mill for the secondary area of conservation, which is along Blacks Mill and across from my property, across the street from my property. And you know, that's something that I would like to talk more about, are we going to have a public parking lot and the public be allowed to be on this piece of property? If it's going to be a park, then you guys buy my property. We'll turn the whole thing into a park. You know, I don't want to have to deal with a whole lot of public people that are going to be looking at my property that looks so inviting and wonderful and want to be there. I don't know how that would look for me. And I haven't had a chance to talk with Mr. Butler, which I'd like to do, but I haven't had that chance. So bringing that up with y'all, you know, I'm open for ideas of how that would look or what we would do. Are there going to be, you know, any amenities in this park type situation? See, anything else there? Yeah, just only that if we were to approve this tonight, if y'all were to approve this tonight, then I would like stipulations on all these things that I've talked about, or explanations on all these things that I've talked about. I'm not against this subdivision going in. I don't think that actually we can stop very many of these from happening without the county being sued out of every dime we have. And I've been there, done that. I sat on this board and I know what it's like for y'all. So, you know, I wish us all the best. I hope this works out in everybody's favor, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Crettinger. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time, we'll close the board for discussion. Gentlemen? Discussion.
The lack of a price point or what the houses will look like is concerning.
I did see in the proposed stipulations that they have exterior materials will be brick, stone, cement, lap siding, cement-based siding panels, or cedar or shake. So that tells me that it's going to be a little more high-end product than something with just vinyl siding or something on it. So there is a little bit of discussion about that in here.
As well as roofing materials. in it.
Roofing materials too, yeah.
I was just hoping we might have a picture of something.
Right,
just
yeah.
So we get a better grasp of what we're looking at.
As far as density, last month, we had a proposal on Dawson Forest that we denied based on density too close, not far enough away from, or too close to,
It
not
didn't
close
set
enough
up
to
future
400.
land use.
This is even closer to 400 than that property was.
This one's farther, it's farther away.
This was further away.
Yeah.
Other way.
But yeah, I share your concerns. What was the density on the one Pacific group that was denied? Do you remember?
It was under 2. I don't know the specifics, but it was around the same density as this proposal. Yes.
What is the minimum amount to be in conservation subdivision?
40% is the minimum requirement for a conservation subdivision.
Okay. So I see 33 acres that's in the conservation is not usable anyway because it's flood and stream buffers. So I don't know that it looks good on paper, but I don't know that they're really giving anything up.
Yeah, I don't see where they could actually build on a lot of this property.
Yeah. The density is what concerns me. Because if we approve this, then certainly anything closer to 400.
Well, that was my point. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to mix that up, but we denied the other one based on this. And,
Right.
You know, this is,
One of the main differences between this one and that one is what the future land use says for this parcel. And I think it's, what does the future land use plan say now?
It
For this
refers to
one.
this piece of property as RPC, which is residential planned community,
Right.
What was the one, the Pacific group?
residential sub-rural.
What's the maximum density on?
Both the maximum densities are 1 unit an acre.
Okay.
The RPC has a few more restrictions, like it talks about having more of a homeowners association, it being more of a planned community, whereas residential sub-rural is more or less your individual homes that could be split up without being a quote unquote subdivision type neighborhood. But if you're going the conservation route, we do allow higher densities. If you go the conservation route and do a conservation neighborhood, there is a density incentive given for contributing the primary, secondary restrictions on conservation areas.
So if it was a RPC conservation, what would the maximum density be?
Is an excellent question. One that I don't have in front of me, but I would say that it's probably 2 units an acre. It probably doubles.
And if you would speak to RS2 versus RS3, please.
So RS2, yeah, absolutely. RS2 is 2 units an acre. So essentially it's half acre lots.
And then RS3,
Is a third of acre lots. So it's 3 units an acre.
which Pacific Group, as we discussed last month, was requesting RS3. And tonight, this particular presentation is an RS2.
Correct.
So the last one that we looked at last month was 3 units per acre versus this time being 2 units per acre. RS2 versus.
But they
RS3.
were proposing less than that on the Pacific Group.
Correct.
Correct.
The Pacific Group, they came in with the request of RS3. Yes, but then they kind of negotiated down to less than 2 units an acre. I think they were like 2.3 units an acre at the original, but then they went down to under 2 units an acre. Yes.
But as far as your precedent set, you're concerned with RS3 that close or far out, whatever the case may be. This is RS2 that's being proposed tonight, which is still 2 units per acre, half acre lots. Actually, less than that because it's all jumbled together. Very tightly compacted, so it would not be half acre lots. It would be very, very small lots. That the houses are individually built on with an overall density of 1.73. Okay. Any other discussion? So no discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to recommend approval with the owner's proposed conditions and stipulations. And, though I'm not going to speak to what the gentleman spoke to tonight, because I think there's time between now and the commissioners meeting for y'all to work that out in a little bit, more informal setting to kind of get what both of y'all need for that. So I'm just going to recommend it as this, and then y'all still have a chance to add things to it if need be. That's my motion.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Without a second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend denial.
Motion to recommend denial. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to deny.
Moving a second to recommend denial. All in favor of denial? Ms. Harmony, whenever you're ready. All in favor of denial. The motion is carried 3-1 with 1 abstention, being myself as the chairman. So we are, as a board, recommending denial at this time. This presentation will be heard again before the Board of Commissioners on January the 21st. So if you are either opposed or in favor or a presenter, January 21st at the Board of Commissioners meeting following the 4 o'clock work session. This time we'll turn to ZA 20-23 Miles Hansford Talent LLC is requesting to rezone tax map parcel 113-044-006 from COI, Commercial Office Institutional, to CHI, Commercial Highway Intensive for the purpose of developing a garden center, Providence Court, and Kylo Church Road. Is someone here to speak for Miles Hansford Talent? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on a piece of paper there on the podium.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jonathan Beard. I'm with Miles Hansford and Talent. I'm here on behalf of the applicant tonight. We are seeking as stated, a rezoning, 2.4 acre tract located on the south side of Kilo Church Road and at the intersection of 400. It is currently zoned commercial. It is currently COI. We are seeking a rezoning to a new zoning classification, which is the CHI. We had originally sought a CHB, but in speaking with the planning department, it was determined that the proposed use fit better under the CHI zoning category. So that is what we are seeking. The proposed use is a landscape supply venue. It will have, as a garden center, it will have landscape supplies as well as landscape sculptures. It has a current location, or did have a current location in downtown Cumming. But that site is being developed. So the applicant, who is a Dawson County resident, is looking to move that facility to this location. The surrounding properties, as included in your staff report, are already zoned commercial, located to the south of Kilo Church Road. So that will be in conformity with that, with adjoining property owners. The overall site, again, is 2.4 acres. The actual building is approximately 5,000 square feet. There will also be pole sheds located on the north and south side of the structure. There's a large gravel display area where these materials will be displayed outdoors. We have 25 parking spaces that are proposed. It's my understanding, I will confirm with the applicant, but it's my understanding that the structure itself will be wood sided, but I will confirm with the applicant. I know that was brought up in the previous matters, but we do not have elevations at this time, but I will confirm that with the applicant.
You have 2 driveway entrances?
Correct. There's one existing, which is located on Prominence Court, but there will be an additional one proposed.
Where does it go to? There's one on Providence Court right now.
Correct.
Okay. Where's the other driveway going to?
It will be on Kilo Church Road as shown.
It'll
on the
go
site
on
plan.
to Kilo Church.
Yes, sir.
Any questions to the applicant?
How close is that driveway from the intersection being proposed?
Appears to be at this curved intersection, but at least 109 feet, as shown on the site plan. Yeah, approximately 100 feet from the intersection.
I'm not a big fan of driveway access points real close to intersections. I'd ask that be looked at.
Certainly, I will certainly take that up with the applicant and see if it can use the
Our
existing.
standard used to be 300 feet in intersection.
And it is closer to the intersection of 400.
And sideline should be looked at as well.
Certainly with it coming on to Prominence, it is out of the way, but with the Kilo entrance, it could pose some traffic issues for certain. Any other questions to the applicant? Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none at this time, we'll close it to the board for discussion. Gentlemen, do you have any discussion?
I'm just curious, what happened to that auto place that was, didn't we rezone this for that auto place at one point?
No, this is currently zoned commercial office institutional. So it was originally supposed to be like a office complex.
Okay. Where was that?
This has been used as when GDOT was doing the continuous flow intersection, they actually graded this piece of property for their headquarters.
I think what you're talking about, Neil, was down further at Lumpkin Campground and on this side of it, on the other side of Kilo, right there between, I think. I don't know, that's been a while back, so.
Oakmont is where that particular one was at, on 400 northbound. As you're coming into the county on the right-hand side. that
Oh, there was
development.
something up.
It was by the church there, kind of.
Yeah, there was something up here. At one point, it was like he was wanting to sell old cars. or
Plastic
something.
cars.
Yeah. I don't know where it was exactly.
Yes, you're talking about.
Any other discussion? Seeing no further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second.
Moving and second, all in favor? Motion is carried 4-0 with one abstention. Once again, this will be heard before the Board of Commissioners, January 21st, following the 4 o'clock work session. And at this time, we are adjourned. With nothing from staff. No comments from staff tonight?
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
We'll see you all next year, except for Emery here. Stepping up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
12.